Welcome back, everybody. My name is Evan Powell. Alongside me is Harrison Grandy, and today we're here to talk about Ohio State women's hockey.
The Lady Buckeyes currently sit at number 6 in the nation, currently 11-5. And over the weekend, when Ohio State football defeated Michigan 62-39, they were honored during the second quarter, rather.
Yes, they were. They were put onto the field right there at the middle. Everybody could see them and recognize them for the great team rather that they have become over the last couple of years. And it was great to see them finally get the recognition they deserve.
And some of the returning players who had graduated, like Danny Sadek and I believe Juliana Iafallo, couldn't make it as she plays for the Buffalo Buttes in the Professional Women's Hockey League. Mm-hmm. But they had everybody out there. It looked like they were having a great time.
Yeah, it was really nice to see. Obviously, the atmosphere during the game with Ohio State playing against Michigan was obviously one to really appreciate as a sports fan. And it was nice to see the women's hockey team out there on the field while their football team were taking it to the Wolverines up north.
Yeah, over the Thanksgiving break and that Thanksgiving week, they actually didn't play a game. Last year they had games, and it was kind of not stressful, but it was kind of a mix-up in scheduling conflict because everybody wants to watch the football game, and everybody wants to have a nice Thanksgiving week. So this week they had it off, or this year they had this week off. But prior to that, the week before, they faced Minnesota Duluth, whose goaltender Maddie Rooney is actually the starting women's Olympic hockey goalie for us, who went to the Olympics. On Friday night, the Buckeyes won 3-1 thanks to Madison Field's 2 goals. Madison Field is actually over the half-century mark this year, now in her career. She's played all 4 years at Ohio State. And then on Saturday, Tatum Skaggs scored a hat trick against Minnesota. She leads the WCHA with 10 goals. And after the game, when we were doing post-game interviews, we had this kind of a skate around. They do one every couple months. But Tatum's kind of a fun person. She thought she could, instead of taking her skates off to go take for her post-game interview, she tried crawling on the floor. She only made it halfway before she realized she probably shouldn't do that and got up, and I carried her skates, and the post-game interview went great. But the players are all great, and it's a great time to be around them.
Yeah, excuse me. Having experience talking with the players, you can really see that there's a lot of chemistry in the team. A lot of fun to hang around after practice. The girls all really love hanging out with each other. One player in particular that certainly brings a lot of life on and off the ice is sophomore Emma Malte. She has been absolutely outstanding these last couple years of her Ohio State career, and this season alone, she is leading the WCHA in points with 24 through 16 games. Harrison, what can you say about Emma?
Emma's one of those kind of players that she's not like her and Tatum Skaggs go hand in hand. Those are our 2 sophomores. Those are 2 of our best players. Tatum's much more of a scorer, but Emma's just a really great skater. She's really quick, and every single time when there's 2 assists, most of the time Emma's on there. Number 17's on the assist, and that's why she racks up all these points. She leads in conference in points, and granted, it is the best conference in women's hockey too. But most of them are assists, and so most people kind of think, oh, it's her best. That's their best player. She probably scores a lot of goals, but I would say her and Tatum Skaggs are the dynamic duo that kind of do it both.
Yeah, Tatum Skaggs on the season in 16 games has 10 goals and 2 assists for 12 points. Emma 7 goals, 17 assists with 24 points. But another player who has really made an impact, not so much in the goals, but definitely in the assists, is junior defenseman Jinsey Dunn.
Jinsey's a great player. Jinsey's, the senior captain, and she's also, I can't tell you exactly, but she's in top 10 in points as well. She's definitely one of our best players, a great leader. She plays from the point, playing defense, but she grabs a good amount of assists as well. She's really pivotal to the Buckeye team. And last time Ohio State played Minnesota State, it was actually Minnesota State. They won 4-0 on Friday night, and then they won 2-1 in overtime thanks to a Madison Field overtime goal. It was about a minute into the overtime. That was in early October. So, and they're actually on a 5-game win streak against Minnesota State. Excuse me. And last year they went 5-1 against the Mavericks, including in the WCHA first round of the playoffs. Ohio State hosted the Mavericks and went on and defeated them.
Yeah, we expect it to be a fairly reasonably simple game for the Buckeyes. However, you cannot underestimate any team in the WCHA. For example, senior forward Jordan McLaughlin of Minnesota State has 5 points total with her team. Now, granted, compared to Emma Malte's her 24 points, it's not a huge comparison. But all around, this Minnesota State team has a lot of players that bring a lot to the ice and have a lot of spirit in them, a lot of fight. They definitely never back down, and the players definitely know that going into this game, that there should be a lot of physicality and certainly no letting up.
Yeah, Minnesota State, even though Ohio State has great success against them, they're a tough team to play. I remember when we lost against them last year, it was one of those games where you were watching and you were like, yeah, they get after it, and they kind of disrupt your game plan. Thankfully, Ohio State's just so good that they kind of get past it, and third period they kind of come along, and in the end they get the job done. But they're one of those teams where they're kind of it's not a given.
Absolutely not. And as we've seen from this season already, the Ohio State women's hockey team, they score a lot of goals, but they certainly concede plenty as well. Obviously, every game is different, and going into a game, you never really know what to expect because anything can happen. And we see that week in and week out. Right now, the women's team from Ohio State are 11-5 and 7-3 in conference, and as of now, they are 6-0 at home in conference. Obviously, this is going to be a totally different game from what they've played thus far this season, but I think there's a lot to look forward to.
And I think when the girls fly out Friday, it's a Saturday-Sunday series this weekend, which is kind of a new thing this year. There'll be a couple of them. Minnesota State's going to give Ohio State everything they've got, and now that they're at home this weekend, I don't necessarily see it. Could say Minnesota State will win. I feel like we still have the better team, but it's going to be different than it was a couple weeks ago because when they played early October, it was early in the season. Minnesota State has a more of a younger team. I mean, their starting goaltender's a freshman, and you're going into a game against a Frozen Four team from last year. So they've kind of grown into the year. I expect them to give Ohio State a better weekend, but I would probably say Ohio State will come out on top on that one. And that'll take Ohio State actually leads. Ohio State's one of the most common opponents in history for them has been Minnesota State. They've been WCHA with them for such a long time. They currently lead the series 63-13-8. So if that gives you any indication of how good Ohio State's always been against Minnesota State. But yeah.
Yeah, and that being said, when Ohio State plays, obviously they're using Emma Malte. And dating back to the start of last season, Ohio State is 22-1 when Emma Malte scores. And obviously this season she only has those 7 goals, but to say only 7 in 16 games, that's still quite an impressive feat. So
still ranks up there, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot to expect from this young Buckeye team that not only has a lot of young energy, but also a lot of upper class leadership that really wants to win more games.
Yeah, there's a great mix between upperclassmen and underclassmen. On our second line, well, I say second line, it changes with Nadine every game, but Sarah Sakinen, she won bronze medal with Finland at the Olympics this past winter. Sophie Jakes, defenseman, she pairs with Jinsey Dunn on the starting line. She's great. She's got one hell of a shot. It's pretty impressive, actually. And then Gabby Rosenthal, who actually sat out a couple games, was hurt. Had to change numbers, which was kind of a weird thing from 15 to 40 for a game. I'm not sure if she's going to change back or not. She actually is ranked second in WCHA on face-off percentage at just over 60%, which for a freshman is always great. And then Madison Bazal, who was Miss Hockey for Minnesota last year, she's usually second-line defense. She's always putting in a good shift. So there's a great balance between freshmen and sophomores, and then the upperclassmen who always get the job done.
Yep, and that's going to wrap it up for us here. And obviously we're looking forward to this game, and we hope that a lot of people are coming out because the Buckeye team certainly put on a performance at home, and we'll be there. We hope to see you there.